Welcome to Scaling Alliances Without Breaking Compliance. I'm Thomas Dussarrat, founder at VIVA GTM. We specialize in industrializing ecosystem-led growth for international software companies. And today, 83% of the B2B buying journey happens in the invisible space, according to Gartner. The invisible space is moments owned by your partners, long before a lead ever hits your CRM. To capture this revenue, you need a technical data bridge. Joining me today is Lucie Loiseau, founder at Data Cache Solutions and president of the French Tech Dublin. Hi, Lucie. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Thomas. Hello, everybody. I am happy to be here. I am doing really well, and I'm always happy to share my knowledge and the good practices to make sure that we can combine compliance and business all together.
Amazing. I'm delighted to kickstart this podcast today. So my first question, Lucie,
Yeah.
is the following. In most international tech companies, the business wants speed. And on the other side, legal wants to say no. How does Data Cache Solutions turn today as a governance into a reputation building asset that actually helps a vendor win more deals?
Firstly, you spoke about a different role, the business and the compliance or the risk department or the legal team. And so they have different role, and it is important to have this different role. So in one side, you have the business development. In the other side, you have the risk management. So our role in Data Cache Solution is to make the bridge. So because it's complicated for legal team and for compliance team to move forward and to have the right visibility on the risk, if they don't know enough the business. So I help to create the bridge between business operation and the compliance legal team. And also I saw that more and more now, this kind of team, they really want to make sure that the compliance makes sense. And when they do something, that it's useful for the business and for the company potentially. So what I am going to bring is really to help them to understand the core business data, the processes. And by doing that, they will have the real reflect of the risk, and they will be able also to focus on the higher risk and not to stop the process on every, agreement or product. So it's important to prioritize. And as well, by doing that, you can have rule and better governance, and you can have some part of the governance and the agreement and the product that they are going to move forward quicker, and you are going to focus on the higher risk with the team that they are dedicated to manage the risk.
It's really interesting. I know I have spent like almost 20 years in IT, working with software companies, international firms, growing, their business in Southern Europe, in France, in Benelux, in all South Europe in general. And basically, we had a lot of internal trainings. When I was working particularly in cybersecurity, so we had trainings on how to behave. So the objective was risk mitigation, how on a daily basis you need to be very careful with the way you behave in order to reduce the risk of data breaches, of compromised users, all those risks. And so I really understand how important it is to have the right behavior. So it's not the responsibility of one department. It's like a transverse challenge for a company. So if I understand well, you are there to, like, as a coach, as a mentor, to help make sure the company is really handling the best way possibly their data governance, their data management. Is that correct?
Yes, it's correct. And as you said, it's everybody's business, but also in the different teams, they don't have the same languages or vocabulary, of course. And so we have to adapt our speaking to make sure that they understand what they have to do and what is their exposure. I have a good example. When I discuss about rule, for example, on the different business line, because sometimes it involves, it's in B2B, so you don't have too much personal data, or sometimes it can involve health data. So this is the higher risk, higher level of risk for personal data. So you will have different obligation, you will have different governance, accountability. So when I am going to come to see the business, I'm going to say, okay, if you have this rule, and we manage the risk by asking the right question at the beginning. So it's for which business line, which business. You will have 60% of the agreement and business going straight forward. And we will focus on the other part that I am explaining to them why it's a higher risk. And they listen to me saying, oh, it's interesting. What is the rule that you want to implement? So I am going to explain. And in the other side, for compliance, I am going to say exactly the same thing, but with different language. So saying, okay, now you have a 50 questionnaire. So it's really bothering for the business, for example, and for you as well, because you have to check everything. But if you change that, having the 5 main questions, you can let a big part, 60% of the business that you don't need to check because it will be low risk, and you are going to focus on the higher risk. I said exactly the same thing, but with different languages. It's question of point of view, and that's why I don't really like sometimes the internal training, prepared for everybody, because it's not really adapted to the people and to the real situation and the real case. And by understanding the method is really to understand what is your business, what will be your risk, and to use the asset of the company. The asset of the company, this is your data, your systems, and the people, of course. And the people know better than me, of course, but I need to explain them and to discuss with them and to make sure that I bring something useful for business as well. By knowing better your system and your data, it's really benefit for the business as well.
That's a very strong point. And so you're talking about the methodology and how you can help the company orchestrate this intelligence and how managing the data. And you cannot manage something you don't understand. So you're there to help them capture how they operate and how they can operate better, right?
Yes.
So now today's discussion is also to kind of projecting ourselves in the context of partnerships.
Yeah.
So your clients today may have business partners, and so you work with partners to be stronger, to have a better reach on your end client, because you want your end clients to be well served and to buy more from you and to, of course, buy more from you in the future. So land, expand, and reduce the churn, right? And so today, the chief revenue officers of those companies, of those software companies, they own all the sales strategy. And so how do you convince those chief revenue officers that slowing down when it comes to fixing the data architecture, how do you show that this work brings value at the end of the day? So you spend time of working on this data strategy, but how it will pay off in the future, how it will deliver value. How do you show them this value you're bringing?
Yeah. Alors, there is different things. Firstly, you have some data. You know that you have some data to contact people, to move forward, to do some marketing also, and you have to make sure that the people, they consent also for that. And my recommendation is to minimize data that you have also, firstly, because by minimizing data, so you limit the risk for the people at the end, and also you are going to save money on the storage cost, for example. So that is important. And also when you are going to work like that afterward, if you start to work, because you spoke about partnerships, you have also to understand what is exactly the strategy that you want to have on the marketing and to move forward to create co-selling all together. So for that, you have to understand who has the commercial contact with the end customer, the end user, potentially for the software. You have to maybe be on the shoes of the customer and the end user to see what they expect. And if they won't be surprised if, for example, Data Cache send an email, but they don't know me, for example. That's quite weird. Even if we bring an offer, a better offer with more service, with a better product all together, it's really important to think about what the customer expects, and afterward to limit the data transfer, because also due to the regulation and also due to the risk, potentially the cybersecurity risk, and also the data protection risk, and to make sure that we don't transfer the data if the people they didn't consent. And by doing that, it will be quite obvious to know, and this is a big part of my work and of the regulation, in the regulation as well, to define the role and the governance on the role. And by doing that, it will be also obvious to prepare your data sharing agreement or the non-disclose agreement. And it will be quite simple to see who will have which task in the process to move forward all together on the co-selling and the partnerships.
It's really interesting. So if I understand well, your point is that it's crucial for a software company who's working with partners to kind of design the approach they want to have with their partners. It should not be something improvised. It should not go everywhere, because obviously when you work with a partner, you need to share data. That's all the point. So it's not about the quantity of data you're going to share, it's the quality and the process, how you're going to process, because the objective is to sell. And obviously, as you mentioned, it's not only about you, the information you want for your own CRM and show, oh, you know what, I'm the account executive in charge of, I don't know, of Citibank, right? And so I've got, have had discussion with this partner who is providing me with insights on the account in order for us to co-sell, right? But you need to be careful on who does reach to the end client and how you orchestrate value. Because if you don't do it well, it can create a lot of I would say frustration for the client, because you're going to get contacted by your partner, by yourself. It's going to be too many lines of discussions, and it's not going to send the right messages. It's going to show that you guys are not aligned. And if you're not aligned, your partnership is not working. So I like the fact that you are pushing your client to design, I would say, all a journey, and who does what it matters. And it's also better to reduce risk, because if there is one handling mainly the communication, there is less risk of, I would say, I don't know, not complying with regulations or creating frustration with the client. So, okay, that makes sense.
And just to explain better, I have two examples that they can be interesting, I think. So the first one is when I worked also for insurance company. So their work is to rent the license to the broker or the claims handler, for example. But they don't need to have the data of the insured, so the end customer. And what was interesting, that they created the partnership with the claims handler, the brokers, the distributors, the underwriters, but they create a tripartite, agreement, because they don't need to have the personal data of the insured, but the claims handler and the administrator or the broker, they need to have the information. So they are going to exchange the both partners, they are going to exchange together the information without giving the information to the insurer. But that's better to make like that, because the insurer doesn't need at all to have this information, but need to control, and the accountability stay at its level. But at its level, the insurer doesn't need to have the information. So
I like that. It's like clear responsibilities. So like a RACI, who's responsible, who's accountable, who's consulted, who's informed. That's clear. The journey is clear. Everybody's bringing value at his moment in the journey, and the risk is really low. I think it's a great example
Yes,
of how to operate smartly with partners to
exactly. And
sell more.
you limit the data transfer, the replicate of data, the duplicate of data. So that's great. And I have
Hmm.
another example that I like to share as well, because this is question of purpose and ethic linked to accountability.
Hmm.
So I worked with a small company. So they are in the health sector. They are psychologists for people with huge disease, big disease in health. And
Hmm.
so we know that all the customers, they are vulnerable people with big disease, and they wanted to use a payment solution. But in this payment solution, every data, even if we make a payment altogether, goes in US. No issue with that. No issue. But for the service providing by my customer, it's for vulnerable people, we have to have the sovereignty of data. So we cannot use that. And so here we speak about partnership, but more vendor, it's a vendor agreement. And this is also kind of partnership. So we need the vendor managing the payment need to have the data of my customer, potentially. Yes. So in this case, what was the issue is that the payment vendor didn't really provide clearly the information that all the data went in US. This is an issue. And transparency is really important because you can have the strategies that you want. No issue with
Hmm.
that. Just be clear and align your strategy with the setup and how you want to manage the operation as well. Because at this moment, it was really important for my customer, the psychologist, to know that because they are too small to have a full-time person working on compliance. But they
Yeah.
really need to know that to avoid to use this vendor because this vendor is not aligned with their purpose. So this is also a question of role and responsibility to make sure that you can build your solution as you want, but just be transparent, crystal clear, like that your customer will know if it's adapted to their own purpose as well and service or product.
That's a strong point. I think it's part of the due diligence of
Yeah.
a vendor to make sure they qualify carefully the partners they have. When I say
Mhm.
partners, there are, again, let's clarify that there are a lot of different archetypes when you work in
Yeah.
tech. There are service providers, there are MSPs, managed service providers, as I said, there
Yeah.
is integrators, there is consulting firms, there is distributors, there are also clouders, like
Mm.
uh, companies who are also storing your data.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all this needs to be well qualified because they are part of the way to deliver value. And
Oh,
so if they don't comply with the regulation, then your business is at risk and it can cost a lot of money to your business.
this is even more than qualification or compliance because you can also accept the risk. It's really depend of your business strategy. So
Mhm.
who is your target? What is the risk of your target, your business partner, your customers, even if they are in B2B or in B2C? And you have to adapt your setup and you have the accountability to adapt the setup for
Mhm.
the customers that you target. And if you target hospital and government, it's totally different than if you target B2B in industry, for example. The risk will be totally different. So you can have some provider that they store data in US. So the risk is low on data protection, for example. So that's really different. That's why all the setup they are correct. They are more or less compliance only if you involve, personal data or vulnerable people. So it really depends of what you want to do. Of if you target small business in health sector, I don't know. It really depends of what you want to do. But the key things is to minimize data and be transparent and select carefully your provider following your strategy.
That's really clear.
Mm.
What I like also, would you mind I would say deep diving a little bit better about the framework you I've been reading about how you are delivering value, you spoke about KYD.
Yeah.
What is KYD? Can you elaborate about that?
Yes, alors I referred to KYC, so know your customer. So this is quite similar, but for your data. So KYD is know your data. And if you know your data, you will be able to adapt your strategy to the data that you collect, and you will be able to adapt the document for the transparency. You will be able also to have the right business partner and vendors. And also you will be able to at the end, what validate the setup that you implemented is the document, like the agreement, the shared service agreement, the shared data agreement, and also the NDA. So you have also to always think to protect you and protect your customers. So that's very important. Or protect your IP as well, your intellectual property. And so that's why it's on this kind of thing that I work more for smaller company to help them also to develop their business safely and with trust, because trust is really important, not only for customers at the end, not only for ourselves, for our company, but also for the investors or the business partners, and to do some partnerships as well.
That's a strong point. So two things on that. The first one, you talk about documents. So yeah, you know your data as a company, and then when you work with partners, yes, there is at some point you need to have an agreement with your partners.
Yeah.
You need to really for me, partnership, it's my job. It's what I do at VIVA GTM. I help companies to I would say develop a strong practice on partnerships. And obviously, your concept of know your data is essential because it's part of the maturity. So you need to be mature on your data before you ask them to sign any agreements. So there are two things which are important in partnerships. There is often when you start, I would say, engaging with a partner, you often start with an NDA or MNDA, master,
non-disclosure agreement. Yeah.
Right. So NDA or MNDA, the name is the same thing. And then once that is done, then you can potentially sign the partner agreements, different types, depending on the motion you have. It can be a referral agreement, it can be a reselling agreement, so that it suits the motion of the partner. So would you mind just explaining a little bit what's your vision on these different documents? What's the order? What are your advice on how to handle it well for a vendor?
Alors, it depends also. It depends of several things. Where you are on the development of your company, because sometimes you are going to sign also NDA because you are at the first part, you want to make some tests with the potential partner or potential customers. So you don't maybe need to have all the full document. You just need to make sure that for both sides, if you share data, it won't be used against you or used to contact your the customers that you have or the data that you collected already. So it depends where you are. Afterward, if you are really on the market already, so you need to have also the term and condition or the term of use, and to make sure that you are clear on what you are going to do with the data of your partner or the data of your customers. If you have also personal data, it will be a bit different. You need the privacy notice as well. Yep. And you have also, depending of the process, when you work in B2B or in B2C, it will be different document as well, of course. And in B2B, so it's possible sometimes big partners can ask, the data service agreement. So this is more explanation on your process to make sure that your process as a small company is compatible with their process and their security as well. So it will be more focused on the security and the process itself and how we manage data and what is the role and responsibility on that, not only on the personal data, but also on the business data. So you have different documents, and we have to, at the beginning also when we are small, we have to make sure that to make simple, as much as possible. Also, the authorities, the regulator, they are quite okay. When they speak with small companies, they don't ask the same thing and the same obligations than for the big one. So
Obviously,
that's okay. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So we adapt, and this is my role also to adapt following at which stage we are to develop the company. Just to avoid to produce all the obligation because we don't need, because the risk is different as well. So we have to move forward only on the risk that we really have, and also making sure that the thing that we do is also useful to develop the business, because this is key.
I like what you just said. I feel like when we work in partnerships, sometimes the first thing that people want to do, vendors, they want to sign an agreement. Oh yeah, we're protected, we've done the job,
Yeah.
and then they send a lot of things in the documents which are so long. So the experience, it doesn't start on the right foot, right?
Yeah.
It's about providing your partners with a good experience. So you need to be clear, not expect too much. Don't provide documents which are too complex. Otherwise, you
Yeah.
can spend hours talking to their legal department, and in the meantime, you don't do any business. So I like the fact that you are making sure the client is offering the right, I would say, framework of documents in order to
Yeah.
serve the interest of the end clients. So it's
Yeah.
about providing the right experience. It's not like, oh, I've done it, look at check the document and it's done. No, you are making sure that things are relevant and are serving
Yeah.
the business objectives, right?
And also, this is not because it's a legal document that we cannot have just a scheme or something at the beginning, making sure that it's crystal clear what we want to speak about. And afterward, to have all the elements, the content in it. But also, sometimes you're right, and this is what you said. Sometimes the company they created a lot of document, making sure that they have everything, and this is not readable at the end. So less
That's all we want
documents,
to avoid.
clearer. Yeah. Yes.
That's so we all know nowadays that is the world of AI, etc. There are a lot of things you can do fast, but it's not the point of doing things fast anymore. It's doing things which are actionable and relevant.
Yeah.
And this is where I think a lot of practices of partnerships we can do better. And we need this assessment, the one you're providing, in order to make sure we know our data as a vendor
Yeah.
and we know what we want to, we know how our partners are operating, and we are
Yeah.
offering them the right set of documents to protect, to build a partnership and to protect each other. And then we stick to it. We know who does what. The RACI is clear, and we don't engage with the end client. The partner owns this relationship. We are just there in the meantime to help the partner be skilled and be, I would say, autonomous in order to deliver the right message to the client.
Yes, exactly.
And this is where we fully align.
Yeah.
Excellent. So now I talking more about, these dynamics, of co-selling.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of stats in the market, which is showing the truth. So the opportunities that a vendor, a tech company is collaborating on with partners, they transform a lot more, so a lot more conversion from sales
Yeah.
pipeline to cross revenue. They also, as they get bigger, because the partner is providing a lot of more knowledge on the account. So usually the perimeter of licenses, for example, that you're going to qualify as a vendor is going to be small. But when you work with a partner, it's going to be able to, I would say, increase
Yeah.
the portfolio, the size of the deal, and also it's closing faster. Why is it closing faster? Because your partner already has access to all the decision makers. So
Yes.
they have the influence, right? So the point is, how do we really, on a daily basis, how do we make sure that these co-selling motions are low at risk? How do you make
Yeah.
sure that the salespeople communicate well with between each other? Because we know that sometimes they send spreadsheets, they send documents on Slacks, and sometimes there are, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
uh, critical data here. How do you reduce this risk of communicating critical data between two sales teams working together as partners? What are your advice on that?
My advice is to keep the contact with the person that the people that they are used to have the contact. So I explain. By doing that, firstly, the customer will continue to have the same person at the front just to discuss about the new offer, the new features. So depend of the partnership that you want to build. And also like that, you avoid to transfer data. Transferring data is a risk, because when you transfer data, you transfer data outside of your environment. So it's a risk to have a breach, to lose data as well. And also if you transfer data, usually following the purpose of your partner or the service, the product, it's possible. Usually with the regulation, you need to have the consent of your customer. So that's easier for the argument that I just said, to keep the contact at the place where is the contact initially with the customer. So like that, you minimize the risk that the customer won't be happy to speak with someone else that he or she doesn't know. Secondly, you don't transfer data, so no risk to lose data. And thirdly, you limit the risk on the regulatory breach as well, as if you don't have the consent, but your partner used the data to contact people for another thing, so you are in breach. And you were the accountable, the responsible at the beginning, and it's you that you transferred, you sent data. So this is my advice, to think about the process and what is the more obvious for business and for security as well, and to simplify process as well. And afterward, this can be also
That's clear.
written, in the agreement that you have with your partner, following the workload. So you are going maybe to have different conditions. But think about what is simpler, and it will be more successful also at the point of view of the customer and for the operation management.
Yeah, well, I think this is extremely insightful. Even for companies who already have a strong practice of partnerships, who are delivering value, who are, have partners involved on most of their deals. What you mentioned is really, like, I would say, the right approach.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that you should have a clear ratio of who does what in the experience. It's a journey. When you go to your client, it's a journey, and you need to clarify who does what, and you need to send the right messages at the right time. And it's not about the quantity of interactions you're going to have. It can sometimes dilute your message. It's about making sure you align clearly, strategically with your partners, and they send the right message at the right moment. So I have a last question for you, for today at least. So this work you are mentioning is transversal to an organization. It's about, helping collaboration and helping each party to win. It's about winning. So can you elaborate on which people you are dealing with, providing all your assessment of know your data? Who are you working with?
Alors, firstly, this is an approach. This is a good practice and goodwill. The approach that I have. So for me, and afterward, when I speak with people that they don't know, when I explain, they say, "Oh yes, you're right." It's really a goodwill at the end because if we don't have business, we don't have regulation to work on, and to respond to your question.
It starts with business. Yes. Correct.
Yes, of course. So we have to support also. I take time to respond to your question, really. But it's always the question of the balance. What is the reward? What is the risk? What is the cost? And the 100 compliant doesn't exist, and the 0 risk doesn't exist. The risk and can be accepted as well, so no issue with that. And often I am contacted by or the CEO for the small company, or by the legal team or the compliance team that they really need help to make the link with the other teams. And the teams that they understand a lot what I do with who I speak a lot is the operation often, because they manage data, they have access to the core data as well. And but at the end, I speak with everybody, every department, because, for example, for them that you know a bit GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation. So one of the core obligation is the register of processing activity. So this is the list of the processing involving personal data. And to do that, I have to understand the activity, the product, the service, and I have to understand the data, the core data, because I use the core data to make sure that this document will reflect really the activity and the risk on the activity. When I do that, I will use, for example, for the company working in B2B, the list of the third party, the list by vendor, business partner, and the list of the system. So I am going to prepare for every department and speak with the commercial team, with the operation, with the risk, legal, with IT. Everybody can have a system dedicated to their business, and also everybody as a vendor or business partner. So, in this case, when you have a new system or you have a new vendor or a new business partner, you have data involved. Like that, I cover more than 90% of the data managed by the company. And I can help procurement team or operation to make sure that more people use the same data from the root system, and more you have people using the same data, and more you will have a better quality on your data for your business. So this is really beneficial for everybody. And to respond to your question, I work more with compliance, legal, and operation, but I am going to work definitely with every part of every teams, every department of the company. And as you said in the previous question, it's everybody's business. That's why.
Well, thank you so much for all these insights. Hopefully, it will help our audience get better take care of their strategy, of their data, and I really think your KYD, know your data concept,
Thank you,
is more relevant than ever. And it might be a right approach to better work on partnerships. Before you want to further engage with partners, know your data as a company, and then you will be able to provide a better partner experience. So this is the first foundation, know your data. Thank you so much, Lucie, and
thank you, Thomas.
Looking forward to our next chat. Thank you.
Yes, me too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a good day. Bye.
You too.